Welcome to the Black Box of Media, brought to you by Ultimate Edge Communications. I'm your host, Aleisha McCall, and this is episode 2. This is the podcast that lifts the lid on the hidden strategies behind high-performance media advertising. If you've ever wondered why some campaigns deliver incredible results while others fall flat, this is where we break it all down. In each episode, I sit down with marketing experts, media buyers, and brand leaders to reveal the tactics, strategies, and insights that deliver real-world case studies that drive results. No fluff, no jargon, just actionable advice to help you cut through the noise and make media work harder for your business. Whether you're a CMO, a marketing manager, or a business owner looking for an edge, this is your backstage pass to results-driven marketing. So together, let's unlock the black box of media and transform the way you think about media advertising. Today's episode is all about mastering the balance between performance, brand, and innovation in media advertising. Because in today's fast-moving landscape, brands are under constant pressure to deliver short-term results while building long-term brand equity. But how do you strike the right balance? In this episode of the Black Box of Media, we lift the lid on the hidden strategies behind high-performance media advertising with a seasoned marketing leader who has shaped strategies at companies such as RedBalloon, Virgin Active, and Les Mills. We're going to explore the battle for attention while standing out is more critical than ever, and how to avoid that cost of being boring. We're also going to dive into the messy middle of the brand funnel where consumers explore, evaluate, and compare options before making a decision. This episode is packed with insights on how to fuel advertising performance, optimize your media funnel, and make smarter decisions that drive real-world impact. Plus, we'll discuss the importance of data-driven marketing and when it's okay to trust your gut. If you're looking for strategies to maximize media performance and create campaigns that truly connect, this episode is for you. Now, I'm over the moon to introduce to you our guest today, the wonderful Rosie Risetto Spears. Rosie is a seasoned marketing professional with a track record of success across iconic consumer brands, including Air New Zealand, Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, RedBalloon, Virgin Active, and she's now the head of sales and marketing at Les Mills in New Zealand. She has proven experience in driving data-driven strategy along with creative vision, excelling in full funnel marketing while staying deeply passionate about building meaningful and impactful brands from the ground up. Hi, Rosie, and welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Aleisha, great to be here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's good to see you too. I know we don't get to see each other in person as much anymore, but seeing you on screen is equally as great.
Oh, likewise.
It's amazing to have you on the show. Now, let's get started. We're going to dive straight into the content today because we've got so much to cover, and I'm really excited for marketers to hear your perspective of the various, challenges, trials, tribulations, and strategies that you've been able to implement in order to drive better results across various campaigns. So we're going to start with this whole balancing brand and performance because it's an ongoing question amongst marketers. It's always, which side of the line do you sit? But and when I also very conscious of the fact that marketers today face pressure to deliver immediate results while also building long-term brand. And so they're thinking, right, what has to be done this week, this month, this quarter versus what actually has to be done long-term. So Rosie, how do you approach that balance of the long and short of it, so to speak, to get that mixed right when running your campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost, it's absolutely key to acknowledge that there is a role for both. That is to harvest existing demand with your sort of performance activities that really convert those that are in category, but also to build that future demand, to open up that future marketing and sales funnel to reach a wider group of people who are not yet in category, but are looking to enter category in future periods. So both jobs are equally important, but to your point, you've really got to understand, I guess, what your business objectives are in order to structure your investment from the top and the bottom funnel appropriately. And the way that I tackle this usually is a bottoms-up approach. I think that any marketer, particularly if they're new to a business or new to an industry, it's really important that you get some good sales performance runs on the board. It's certainly the way that I've started at many of my roles, is just to really look at that bottom performance layer, understand where the opportunities exist, optimize the hell out of it, And then that sort of opens up new opportunities for you to think about how you can do your brand building efforts. But, you know, that marketing investment funnel is largely dependent on, you know, business goals, on seasonality nuances. You know, there's certain times of the year where I know it's high category buying time, that I really push up a lot more of my performance investment on a month-to-month basis. So yeah, I think for marketers, just get really clear about what your business goals are, what your seasonality profile is, and then yeah, just make sure that that bottom funnel is absolutely humming.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the point, right? At that stage where you really know the bottom of the funnel is really now starting to pump, that's where you get that confidence, right? To go, right now, I'm going to invest more up in the awareness and consideration, because at the end of the day, you know, we're all reporting to boards, whether it's private equity or shareholders, they're all looking at those bottom line numbers. So I think that's brilliant advice, just to get in, get that right first, get that really pumping, and then know, right now, I've got the confidence to invest up in the awareness and consideration stages of the funnel.
Yeah, and I think you touched on it there, the consideration phase of the funnel. So I sort of think about the funnel in a very basic way: awareness, consideration, and performance, conversion layer of the funnel. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that, you know, the customer journey is not linear like that. I just use it as a really great framework for myself to sort of get clear about what the job to be done at each layer of the funnel is. What is the customer's trigger and pain point at each of those layers, so that my marketing efforts are really looking to serve, I guess, that customer and sort of pull them through. And, you know, it's obviously a great way also to set your KPIs at each layer of the funnel. Each layer of the funnel has got a different job to be done, and therefore have very different KPIs. So really just a great sort of simple structure that I follow, and it's proven successful across a number of categories.
Yeah,
Brand.
fantastic. Now that's brilliant. Thank you for that. So we're going to flip sides for a second and talk about this winning the attention battle, because obviously this has come up a lot. You know, there's I think 2 to 3 seconds we've got now to capture the attention of consumers when they're scrolling their feeds or whatever it might be. And we really are now in an attention economy where the brands that are winning are capturing that attention really well. And you've spoken as well about the cost of being boring being very high. So my question to you, Rosie, is how can brands break through the noise and actually really capture that attention?
Yeah, look, this is tough. And I think you've touched on the fact that there's a real attention battle happening sort of in the marketing and brand world. And there's a ton of research that shows that an interesting ad or a creative piece of content is more effective, more memorable, and its media spend goes harder than the more sort of neutral, less emotional driven sort of comms. So I just think it's absolutely critical that brands think about, you know, how they can stand out in a very cluttered market. We know consumers are bombarded with, you know, over 10,000 messages a day, consuming a ton of content. I think the first job to be done is to stand out and get, you know, some attention.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I think I'm a real lover of Maya Angelou, and I just love her quote around people remember how other people made them feel. Yeah. And I just think about that philosophy as it relates to brands. And I really believe it's the brands that make people feel something are those that are remembered.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
Yeah. And if you think about, I know, Rosie, I've witnessed you firsthand execute this across multiple brands, but could you give our listeners maybe an example? I know you're working on something at the moment, just of really tapping into that insight and really tapping into the emotion around what the leading insight might be to actually get them to take action. So can you give us some context?
Oh, I'd love to. So late last year, we launched at Les Mills, we launched our latest brand platform, which is Be Imperfect. And to your point, it started with a real true consumer insight that people find gyms and group fitness intimidating. And it's often a fear of judgment that cause people to give up before they've even started. And so through this new brand platform and positioning, we set to peel back the glossy facade of gym perfection, and encourage people to get out of their head and into the moment, and, you know, into the gym, and embrace imperfection as a natural part of that fitness journey. So I think, yeah, just starting with that insight, and thinking, you know, how can we use that insight to create a piece of content, a piece of brand material that gets people talking and gets people noticing us. And I think the power of it was calling the elephant out in the room. I think just the cultural truth that was really radiating through that brand spot has come through loud and strong. And the numbers are proving that it's resonating. We've got really high completion rates across YouTube and Meta. We also tested that the master ad and the Ideally ad testing platform, and it's scoring really high from a brand distinctiveness, a brand likability, and brand recognition standpoint. So all of the metrics from a brand perspective are pointing in the right direction. And I would also say that coming off the back of that launch and off the back of January, which is, a big buying time for the gym category, we had an incredible sales performance. So, not often do you see such immediate activation at the bottom of the funnel from brand activity, but in this instance, we have been able to really leverage, a powerful brand message at the bottom of the funnel off the back of that and into January. So super stoked with how it's started and how it's resonating.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's that combination, right, of knowing the insight, leaning into that, being able to develop something really meaningful, and then have a really strong execution strategy off the back of it to be able to captivate that attention in the right platform, right moment. So that's brilliant. Super fantastic example. Now, moving into this messy middle, which is a lovely, marketing funnel, sales funnel, whatever you want to call it. We've all seen one. We've all, well, gosh, we've seen hundreds now. But what we're really finding is now consumers are spending more time than ever before, exploring, evaluating, comparing their options. We find, it's no longer linear. It's no longer awareness, consideration, intention, conversion. It's now become aware. I consider, maybe I do something intention related. I go back to consider. I stay at consider. I come back to intention, and then I finally convert. So they're jumping around, the media funnel now, and it's causing a lot of challenge for marketers, because sometimes that's extending the time to buy, and it's having a lot of other impact on the way in which consumers buy. So what strategies help brands, I guess, win at this stage of the funnel? How can they really embrace, I guess, that not only the omni-channel experience, but the way in which consumers are now moving back and forth through the funnel?
Yeah, absolutely. I spend so much of my working day and non-working day obsessing about this phase of the funnel, to be honest. And it's a tough nut to crack, and I don't think you ever fully crack it. But I guess the way that I think about this layer of the funnel is I lean heavily on consumer research to really understand what is the consumer pain point, or what are the drivers of consideration at this layer of the funnel. And what I do know is consumers at this phase, they're aware of your brand, but they're really seeking clarity and value. And as you say, consumers are bouncing around cross-channel, cross-device. So I think the key thing for brands to consider at this phase of the funnel is to ensure that your message is consistent and cohesive across all channels, and that it really reinforces your key value. I think clear, concise calls to action, easy to navigate websites, and I think just really thinking about your lead nurture journey. Often a lot of consumers who are considering your brand have signed up for a newsletter, like really thinking about how you can truly, leverage that moment of one-to-one connection to really sort of try and pull that customer through.
Absolutely. I think this is a point where you get to those, like what we've discussed a lot, is the sticking point. It's like, okay, well, hang on, if they're not, if they're going consider intent, but they're not moving on the funnel, what's that sticking point that needs to be uncovered in order to get them to go to the next level? Because there's got to be some reason that they're not, that they're not moving through. And that's why, for us, it's just drawing back in on that data to go, okay, hang on, what is it that's not quite working here? What can we not see that's stopping them from moving the funnel when it is actually an issue? But some of the time it's just they're not quite ready, or they're dancing around, or you're in a really competitive space. So it's really becomes quite challenging to start to identify those what those pain points are. And now let's get into this data versus instinct space. So data, I think we all know now, we've been, it's been bombarded into us that data-driven decision making is absolutely critical. But sometimes gut instinct plays a really significant role. And, my question for you is, how do you determine when to trust the numbers and then when to trust your intuition? Now, I've seen you in action with this in real time, having to make these decisions, coming off campaigns that haven't necessarily delivered the result that you want to, and then going, right, I now have to make a shift. I now have to make a change into, sort of the biggest campaign period of the year. And I saw this firsthand at RedBalloon when you had to go in and decide in September. Now, Christmas is the biggest time of year when it comes to the sales and the most important time of year. And very quickly, within the space of about 3 or 4 weeks, you had to make the decision to change your brand direction, come up with an entirely new creative value proposition, and then be able to deliver a media advertising strategy that you knew was going to hit the numbers and ultimately the goal to achieve, the best Christmas ever. So can you talk to our listeners, Rosie, about what that balance looks like, what's important for the data, but what's important for you to now go, right, I just got to trust my gut on this and go.
Yeah, I think there's absolutely a role for both. And experience tells me that there are always clues that the data sort of leaves you, right? Whether that be your brand health data, your own data sources such as Google Analytics, or indeed sales data, performance marketing data. So I think, assess the data that you do have to hand to see, what clues are being left for you. But we do know that marketing is a blend of art and science, right? So data provides that foundation, and it's the art. What do you take away from that data? What does this mean from a strategic perspective? I think that's when the magic of the art of marketing comes to life. So I think just touching back on that experience at RedBalloon, I think it's worth mentioning and acknowledging just so much learning came out of that time at that business. Just working for a pure play e-commerce brand just opened my eyes to, that fast moving juice of an e-commerce brand, just to get under your skin. But, to orientate back to the context that you shared, yes, we'd come off the back of a slower performing Father's Day. And I just intuitively knew that we needed to, play higher up in the funnel and build consideration in the lead up to Christmas. It plays back to that original point that we spoke to around, there's a role for harvesting existing demand and there's a role for priming the market and building your addressable market. And I think that instinct of knowing that there was a moment where we had to sort of fill the funnel, top it up, really demonstrate, the beauty of giving an experience gift and the benefits of that was absolutely critical so that we could capitalize off that at the bottom of the funnel for the Christmas sales period.
And heroing that consumer as well, right? To be the total hero in that event, to be giving this beautiful, incredible gift, feeling amazing because they know they've totally nailed the gift, all with the help of, their guide, in this case, RedBalloon. And that was underpinning that story brand framework by Donald Miller to get that perfect combination of media and creative. And I always remember watching you going, okay, I'm glad this isn't my call. And you just made the call. We went, right, we're making it happen. And then sure enough, best Christmas ever. But I think a lot of marketers on a day by day basis really, especially now when we're in such a data and the economy right now as well, we're in a very data driven environment. And we've also got higher expectations with the same budget than ever before. So it really comes into tact of who's the marketer that's going to go and make that decision and say, right, I'm going to go with this because, to your point, I've got enough strategy, I've got enough data, and now I can tap into my intuition, which you're exceptionally good at doing, and go, right, we're going to go and we're going to make it happen. And sure enough, in that case and many others that you've been in, the results have paid off. But I think a lot of our, the marketing managers and CMOs that I speak to, that is the number one question, is when is that time right to know now you can tap into your gut? Is that a skill, Rosie, that you've honed, sort of personally in the past? Because I know, you've got all of the marketing skills, but is that something that shows up as well in your personal life as well, that you can tap into? It's just, I think marketers are sort of wondering, when can I tap into this and trust this? So what would you say to them in that moment?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of just that's the way I'm wired. Like I definitely have a bit of an intuitive sort of leaning, I guess you could say. But I think a lot of it comes from experience, quite honestly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like when you've made these big moves, some work and some don't. And
Yeah.
it's really about just harnessing those learnings. And that just builds up your IP and I guess your confidence
Mm-hmm.
and better understanding, you know, what the data is telling you and what moves you need to be making as a brand. So I think it's a combination of sort of three things. One, what's the data telling you? Two, what experience can you draw on or examples have you activated in the past that you can sort of take learnings from and feed into the problem that you're trying to solve? And then thirdly, just believing in yourself and knowing that intuitive nudge often will lead you down sort of new pathways. So just being brave and being confident in your decision, but backing that up with data.
Yeah, absolutely. No, absolutely. That's brilliant. Okay, now we're going to shift gears a little bit into this building a culture of test and learn. So, as we know, experimentation is absolutely key. It's the key, one of the key ingredients for, especially for media advertising success. And I know that when you're working in combination, you're obviously doing that within your internal teams from a marketing point of view, but then you're also working with agencies to do that on a media advertising point of view. So, how do you foster that test and learn mindset within the team, but also with the partners that you're working with as well?
Yeah, I think I really have my time at RedBalloon, honestly, to thank me for showing me the importance of experimentation and testing and learning and iterating.
Testing everything, right? Like testing absolutely everything.
Everything within reason, you know, and I think
Yeah.
when you work for an e-commerce brand, you know, have access to data a lot, you know, at your fingertips, right? So there's power in that. But I think just touching back on that, some of those themes we've talked about around, you know, brands that are boring get ignored. I think you've just got to get okay with testing different variants, right? And sometimes, you know, you might be testing a couple of images or a couple of headlines. Like you don't need to spend a huge amount of money to sort of test a concept with a market.
And to get that level of statistical significance, right? Like it's actually quite surprising how small you can spend just to get enough of that statistical significance to go, right, I can run with that. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's power in that, there's power in the data. And so I've really, adopted that in all of my teams I've worked with. I think there's real power and freedom and giving the team the opportunity to test new ideas, maybe invalidated ideas, right? But I just think having that culture of the fact that it's okay to fail is really, really important to me. And I think when we have done that, we've tested new concepts, you know, it's amazing to just have that open mind and see where the data leads you.
100%.
So I think just again, that going back to that meta A/B test example, it's a fail-safe way just to test new concepts, like with the market and with that true customer orientation lens.
Absolutely. And I think one of the key insights that I've come across as well is that learning that the magic is in the failing. So when you do fail and you learn from that experience and you find, you know, new insights and new ways to do better and drive better performance and better campaigns, that's where the quickness of the feedback loop becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. Because actually, if you fail a lot and fail quickly and you really get the insight, and the distinction there is you've got to get the insight, like, why did I fail? Why did that campaign fail? Why did that test fail? That you can bring that back into your feedback loop and layer that on top. That's where what I've seen especially is the marketers getting those incremental and in some cases exponential gains because they figured out what doesn't work really, really quickly and now they're focused on what works. So I do agree there's a lot of power in that testing strategy to make sure that you get the tangible insights and you get them to connect to the team so that they stick. Because there's nothing worse than campaign after campaign, the same mistake being repeated, right? It's like, you pull your hair out. But when you get the insight and the team realizes, okay, this is really important to break through, to overcome, now you're getting those really significant gains. And I've, again, witnessed you with teams getting that philosophy bedded down. That's where you do get, the growth month on month, year on year in the right direction, not the wrong direction, because you're taking all of those learnings and insights on board. So that's exactly where you want to be. So now we'll come into maximizing agency partnerships. So what are and you've done, a fantastic job of this, of really, sort of showing up, being willing to have these transparent discussions. There, certainly in my experience working with you. And I know, we built the rapport and we built that trust, but you've always been very willing to have the transparent discussions to make everybody better on both sides. So both on the client side and on the agency side. But what do you believe is key to getting the most out of agency relationships? And that's building trust, pushing boundaries, but actually also having fun along the way. What do you believe the key to success is there, so to speak?
Yeah, I think from my experience, obviously having amazing humans in the room always makes your job that much more magical. But for me, I think, the power of any relationship is about setting those clear expectations and those goals. So you're all singing off the same song sheet, right? And I think the marketer's core job to be done is to understand that business strategy and translate that strategy into clear, measurable marketing KPIs. And I guess that cascades down to briefs for your agencies, right? So then everyone in the room knows what winning looks like. So I think having that real clear framework for success is absolutely critical for any sort of client agency partnership. And look, I have always been I've had great success with a lot of agencies over my career. Currently, we've got some incredible Kiwi agencies running our creative and media here in New Zealand. But along the way, I've just generated this amazing group of freelance small boutique agencies like yourself, Aleisha, who are just incredible at what they do. And I've remained really connected with those people. And I always find I just learn so much through keeping those relationships beyond just a client brief or a budget. So yeah, it's definitely, I think that's where the magic lies in that relationship and in that agency dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. They become part of your mastermind too, right? Like that becomes part of the people that reach out to, that you can count on for an honest opinion or honest feedback, or, something that you're stuck on. And I think we underestimate the value of that on an ongoing basis, because we don't all have the answers. We don't all always know, we don't wake up in the morning and go, yep, that's what we've got to do. That's the strategy, that's what I've got to fix. So having that as part of your community is absolutely powerful. But then maximizing the on the ground ability to be able to get people to deliver the result, but not just deliver the result once or twice, deliver that result consistently, and then have those experiences where, you go from a certain base and increase those numbers, 10, 20, 30, 40%. And who doesn't love winning? But I think it's the collaboration that comes together to go, okay, everybody's on the same page here, let's make the magic happen. So there's some great insights there. Now, couple of last questions for you, Rosie. When it comes to optimizing, like we spoke about sort of the media advertising aspect and, how we, bring people through the funnel and how we actually get traffic to the site. But when it comes to we've worked so hard in a lot of cases just to get people to just come and visit the site. When it comes to sort of website optimization and CRO, often they sort of, not intentionally, but they get overlooked because so much effort has had to go into building the campaign and getting the media advertising strategy right just to get the traffic in. So what do you think and you've always looked at this with a very full funnel approach. So it was always, we can't go live with, this yet until we fix these 3 or 4 things. And then we can now, restart the campaign or whatever it might be. But why do you believe so strongly that these are essential for maximizing media performance?
I think one of the greatest sort of misconceptions in digital media is if you drive more traffic, that equates to more sales. And I think it just goes back to getting your house in order. So I just think, having a person visiting your website is a privilege. So make sure that you've got a really clarified message about what value you as a brand or a business are offering. And I think, again, in the spirit of ongoing optimization and continual incremental growth, I think just having a test and learn mindset which not only applies to your page digital efforts, but also applies to your website, is absolutely critical, right? So just using CRO platforms to really test and learn different copy treatments, different imagery, different call to action buttons. I think, there's so much that potentially is being left on the table because we're not looking at our own assets and thinking, great, how can we level these up? And, my experience is simple UX changes can have a dramatic effect on sales and lead performance and bounce rate. So yeah, just get the basics right. Just improve elements like load speed, think about your user flows, your customer journeys, really work hard to get the right content at the right stage of the funnel. And you really, with all that combined, you increase your chance of converting that web visit into an action.
Absolutely. And that I couldn't agree more, because I often, anytime I'm looking at, call it sales funnels or sales processes, and you go your impression to click to lead to, booking to the end client, there is a step in every single process where you've got an opportunity for someone to drop out, like literally just leave the funnel. And when you look at that in a linear basis, and you can see, okay, we've had 1 million impressions here, but we've only had 100 sales here, it can be quite confronting, because it's like, hang on a second, that's a lot of investment going into that top end to not draw through. And often if you can just make a small change at 1 or 2 stages of the funnel, you can get a significant impact. And I know when we were working together at Virgin Active, you had identified and came to us and said, look, we've got an issue. We need to get more people. I can see it on the page. We're getting a ton of traffic, but we're not getting enough people to book a tour, to actually physically say, yes, I want to come in. And at the time, I think we both agreed, like, okay, that page was okay, but it needed to improve. So can you talk to us just a little bit about that insight, and then what came of that in just one small improvement? Because I think whether it's marketers, business owners, we underestimate the value of one small change, one small shift that can actually make a significant difference. And at that time, just to give everybody concept, we had really, really great momentum coming through the media advertising funnel. We had really strong awareness, we had consideration, traffic coming to the site. But you came to us and you said, guys, that's all really lovely, but we're not getting these booker tours coming through at the level that we expect in order to achieve our sales outcome. So can you talk to us a little bit about that insight and why you were so adamant about and passionate about fixing this one problem, because you knew what it was going to unlock at the back end?
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking back to that, I guess, opportunity, as you touched on, we were seeing a lot of traffic to that book a tour page, but, circa 1% conversion rate. And just felt that there was an opportunity just to get curious about just testing different imagery, testing an entirely new UX layout, testing different variations around how we were framing up the benefits of a tour. And, it was just as simple as that. And yeah, I think from memory, the conversion rate was incredible. So we released the brand new page, and I think we tripled the conversion rate. So yeah, just those brilliant basics. And I think just getting curious, and often we go into these processes not really knowing what the solution is, but we damn right know what the problem is, right? And I think that's where, when you've got a partner where you can go, hey, this is the problem. I think we co-created the design of that page and we released it. And I think we're all surprised and delighted by, the incredible improvement that we were able to make. And, that's, you think we tripled the conversion rate, that equated to a lot of incremental leads into the business. And brought down our cost per lead through all of our paid acquisition efforts. So yeah, simple things can definitely make massive improvements at the bottom of the funnel, particularly.
Yeah, absolutely. And because you guys, at the time, there was actually a really brilliant process from lead to sale. It was like that one problem, it did have an exponential benefit because of the numbers and the tracking and the consistency of the delivery from lead to sale. So that's brilliant. Now, last question for you, Rosie, all on staying ahead. Obviously, media advertising now is evolving at breakneck speed. I speak to people all the time and I joke like I'm having to spend 5 or 10 hours a week just reading to keep up on everything that is happening, to stay relevant, to stay ahead of the curve. So what advice would you have for marketers looking to remain relevant and looking to continuously grow, looking for that continuous improvement?
I think there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is become an expert on the customer within your own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, that starts by just tapping into the treasure trove of data that marketers sit on, whether that be Google Analytics data, market research, comments on your social media feed, sentiment analysis, Google your brand name across Reddit. What are consumers thinking and feeling about your brand? I think from there, I think have conversations like this, listen to conversations like this, get different perspectives, invest in your own learning and development as well. A couple of years ago on mat leave, I invested in the Mark Ritson marketing mini MBA, and I'd say that has been one of the greatest investments of my career to date, just in terms of just the confidence that it brought me as a marketer. And I guess the third thing for me is ask for feedback. So, go to those trusted people in your ecosystem who know you, who work with you, and ask them for how you're showing up. Are there opportunities for improvement? And I personally find that question really confronting, and I get really nervous about opening the doorway. But when I have done it, the feedback that has been given to me has been absolute gold dust, and I'm incredibly grateful for the moment where I'm able to just get other people's perspective on how I'm going, and sort of opportunities for me to improve the way that I'm showing up in my business and as a marketer and as a leader.
I think that's beautiful advice. I couldn't agree more in that space, is that often the things that feel the most confronting and the most scary are often where the huge amount of growth can lie, and different perspectives in that space, especially from trusted leaders and people who have walked the path that you want to walk. It certainly has an incredible, I know for myself as well, it has an incredible impact. And any marketers or CMOs or maybe some up and comers that have just started in the industry, that is just gold. Make sure you go back and rewind and re-listen to that piece, because that is absolute gold, especially if you're up and coming in the industry, to get that feedback and to embrace it, and just to be open to know that, there are really people out there that do want to help you grow, do want to help you become your best self, your best marketer. So Rosie, I think that's just fantastic advice. So thank you so much for being with us today. It's been such a great conversation. You've shared insights, you've shared stories, and just real world strategies on how to balance the performance, the brand, and innovation of media advertising. I think more than ever, marketers are overwhelmed with just the sheer amount that needs to get done. And often it does come back to just really coming back and focusing on those sort of 20% items that are going to yield 80% of the result, and just staying really true and focused, as you said earlier, on that outcome that needs to be achieved, and getting everybody aligned on that course. So look, thank you so much for being with us, Rosie. It's been awesome to have you on the show.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so there you have it. From navigating the messy middle to trusting your gut when the data isn't enough, you've given us a masterclass in what it takes to build impactful results and super driven campaigns. If there's one key takeaway from today, it's this: the brands that win are the ones that dare to be bold, embrace experimentation, and truly understand their audience at every stage of the funnel. Whether you're optimizing for conversions, pushing creative boundaries, or refining your agency partnerships, the goal is always the same: making your media work harder and smarter. For everyone tuning in today's episode, if this sparked any new ideas or challenges you can think about media, I'd love to hear from you. So drop me a message on LinkedIn, share your biggest takeaway, and let's continue the conversation to help marketers get more out of their media advertising. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Black Box of Media so you never miss an episode. We have some incredible guests coming up, and I promise you we are just getting started. So until next time, keep pushing boundaries, keep testing, and most importantly, keep making media work for you. See you in the next episode.